What do we expect one rookie receiver to do for the remainder of the season and the 2023 campaign? Which stud AFC South running back may not be available to you in the championship round? And is a Week 15 fantasy football hero due for another league-winning performance this weekend? Plus, our good buddy, FFPC weekly preview co-host, 10-time FFPC main event and Football Guys League winner, and 2022 FFPC Best Ball Tournament finalist, Dave Terpoilli is going to swing in to discuss who he's rooting for this weekend with $200,000 on the line in that competition, what he knew about Evan Ingram that none of us apparently did during drafting season, and much more. We've got a great show for you. Farrell Elliott and Dave Terpoilli are here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
The pressure, I've seen greater men than need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture, are we not all our father's sons? I became a man, nobody ever told me what a man was.
Welcome in, everybody. Happy Friday, happy last Friday of 2022, and welcome into the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. All the Gersak fanatics. I am not doing well tonight, people. We had a false start at the start of the show tonight, and I'm still not of one mind. I've been battling something all week. I don't know what it is, but greetings and salutations to all the Balkaholics and Farelliacs tuning in tonight. It is the final episode of the HSFF Hour for 2022. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. My co-host is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Farrell Elliott. Coming up on tonight's show, we'll be hashing out whether you should be starting Brock Purdy with championships on the line, what to expect from the Eagles quarterback situation in Week 17, and FFPC weekly preview co-host, 10-time high-stakes league winner in the FFPC and 2022 FFPC Best Ball Tournament finalist, Dave Terpoilli, is going to help us break down what to do with your 49ers not named Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle this week. We'll revisit his Travis Etienne love that I know Farrell will want to bring up at some point tonight, and much more. If you want to connect with us on Twitter, we are at HSFF Hour. I am at Eric Balkman. Check out Farrell's Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com or at KFFSC Official on Twitter. Dave is on Twitter at Dave Terp. You can also email the show at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. Facebook.com/HSFF Hour is where to reach us. If you have any questions for us, now is the time to send them in. We'll try to get to all the chat room questions, tweets, and emails in the fantasy feedback segment coming up later on in the show. Thanks to our audio engineer and my best friend, Bryce, and, of course, our producer and mutual friend, Rob. In case you have not joined yet, make sure you are joining the FFPC Weekly Challenge. There's no draft, no salary cap in this. You just choose 10 or 12 players, whichever you want. You can play with the slim format without kickers and defenses, or the classic format with kickers and defenses. You can play in a 100-team contest, a 30-team contest, or a 10-team contest. And if you do beat out the other 9 players in that 10-team contest, you will win a free entry into the 2023 FFPC main event, where you can compete for a $1 million grand prize. The price points for both for the weekly challenge go at $35 or $200. The same price points we have for our our playoff challenges available at myffpc.com. You can play for a $500,000 grand prize in our world famous FFPC playoff challenge for just $200, and then $100,000 for a $35 entry fee in the Football Guys playoff challenge. Those are available at myffpc.com. It's a beautiful thing. It takes 2 minutes to set a lineup, and you don't monkey with it throughout the playoffs. You just leave it alone. You pick your team, and that's who you root for through the duration of the playoffs. It's so much fun. myffpc.com is where to sign up for those. In case you missed the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, we had the FFPC main event second place team owner Norm Barons on this past week on Tuesday, who had some interesting things to say about the Buffalo Three, the Go Bills franchise, Don Barani, Sean Stutzman, and Nick Costantino. He had some interesting things to say about their prospects of going back-to-back in the main event. So you can check that out at rotoviz.com/podcast. anywhere you get podcasts, or the FFPC YouTube channel where the video is archived on there. Speaking of this FFPC YouTube video, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, make sure to share the video with your friends and get notified so the next time we go live, you will be able to watch it live and participate with the hosts like the one I'm going to bring on right now, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Farrell Elliott. Farrell, happy early New Year to you, man. Thanks for joining me on this cold December night in Wisconsin.
Buddy, I'm thrilled to be here. You know, you got to do like the musicians. You got to do a little warm up. You know, you got to get that bulky mouth moving. Got to, stretch those vocal cords a little bit. You're going to be okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, and a cough. Do we have a cough button?
No,
if
we don't.
If anyone ever needed a cough button, it would be.
Hold on. I think we'll test the cough button here.
Test cough button. Cough button works.
Nothing. So
cough
perfect.
Button just works. I mean, we ought to use the cough button because nobody wants. I'm so damn tired of hearing people cough. Mostly myself. Yes. What are you drinking tonight?
We have some decaf coffee.
Oh, gee, there's your beginnings of your problems right there.
Well, no, I think that should be better for me. Normally I have some sort of craft beer that I imbibe in during the show, but I feel like this will be better on my system as I'm trying to. Like, it's been bad this whole week. Just way too much work, and I've been fighting off something. I don't know what it was. I like the last 3 days, Farrell. I went to bed early every single day, and then the last 3 days I woke up early. I felt great. And then about 11:30 or noon hits, and I'm like, man, I got nothing left the rest of the day.
Yeah,
my body is just shutting down.
That false morning thing. Yeah, and after the show last week, as I mentioned, that I was having 2 bourbons and a
cough syrup,
half a bottle of cough syrup.
Yeah.
And one of our listeners called me and told me that I shouldn't mix those things. And I said, well, of course I don't mix them. I drink the bourbon over ice and the cough syrup right out of the bottle. I didn't understand what he was talking about. So and so he hung up on me. But nevertheless, we're just all trying to get a little healthier and get this show done. And, nothing makes for a healthy show than having the Dave Terpoilli come on. And, I no longer will refer to him as Dave Terp. It's Dave Terpoilli. Ever since through the magic of social media that I had the pleasure of meeting Stassi Terpoilli and seeing how that rolls off the tongue, I use the full name Terpoilli now as I go.
We've been talking about him so much, it would seem criminal not to bring him on.
It would be criminal.
So let's bring him on. Hopefully he'll help save my voice tonight. He's a 10-time FFPC main event and Football Guys League champion. You know him as the co-host of the FFPC weekly preview show, which I believe you just saw on this channel about 2 hours ago, along with our man, Aiden LaCorey. He is a finalist for the $200,000 grand prize in the 2022 FFPC Best Ball Tournament. You saw him with much of the Pros versus Joes coverage this year as well. You follow him on Twitter at Dave Terp. Please welcome back onto the program, Dave Terpoilli. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight, man.
It's been a minute, guys. I've missed you.
Hey, and since we've had you on, you now have a brand new daughter. Congratulations.
She's awesome. She is just a bundle of just awesome. She's great. A month in, just learn as much as we can. She's just doing a lot of pooping.
Yeah,
but she's great.
I noticed, Balky, there's visual evidence of Terp actually headbutting the child in a picture from.
You mean her
Christmas
headbutting
Eve.
me?
I just it's amazing. People see that head, they want to hit it. That's all.
I have a big head, so I understand why she wants to smack it around.
I feel like the best way to do this, guys, tonight, Dave, we're going to get into your interview in a second, but we'll do a 3-way for this fantasy flash, and we'll just kind of roundtable this discussion here. We'll kick things off at a game that I'm currently scheduled to go to on Sunday, although I may be a game time decision unless I get better pretty quick.
You better be there.
I want to be there. I want to like. What's funny is I don't know if you guys know this, but I know I opened the show. I said, oh, it's a chilly December night in Northeast Wisconsin. It's really not. I mean, like in Milwaukee today, it got up to like 60. I mean, I've been in the 50s here in the shadows of Lambeau Field. This is not seasonable weather for Wisconsin right now. And I feel like if it's in the 50s or 60s, it won't even be that cold on Sunday. And maybe that's
a fan of that. I was hoping it was really cold for Viking fades.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. Like, or maybe somebody who has a bad hip which is Christian Watson.
Mhm.
He is officially listed as questionable for that game. He, if you noticed in the game on Christmas Day against Miami, hurt his hip on a tackle towards the end of the first half, never came back in. Did not practice Wednesday, did not practice Thursday. He had his helmet on for stretching for the practice, the media portion of the practice today. And by all reports, he did practice. They officially listed with the limited practice. Farrell, I'll kick this off with you. The Vikings secondary has not been good unless you have a fantasy receiver going against them. Then they've been great. So Watson, to me, you got to find a way to get in him. But how much does this hip injury scare you, given that this is a guy who has already went down early in games this season with different problems with his body? How much of a risk is there re-injury here? If you have Watson and it's the championship week, what are you doing with him in this great matchup?
You know what? If you have him, you likely believe in this player, and the upside is so strong. And we're playing in a total points contest, and so if you're not protecting a lead or at least a top 5 play, here's the kind of guy that you want to be in business with, because he's the kind of guy that can catch up the lost ground that you need to catch up. The flip side is of what Romeo Doubs brings in this situation. Here's a player that after week 3 and 4, we really thought we had something here. Back-to-back touchdowns, 13 catches over those 2 games, and then the injury and some play that wasn't as competent as that. But he's back now. He looks like he's back in the mix. He dropped a couple of easy passes early, but there's another play in this situation, and he's hit since December 18th, 13 catches. I think that either of those young Packer receivers would be a good play this weekend.
Yeah, Terp, are you seeing it the same way, that given that the Vikings secondary has been very good to fantasy receivers, that you break ties in favor of Romeo Doubs this weekend?
100%. I don't think personally the Packers can win the game without Watson. I just feel like he does so much for that offense that, Dobbs is back, but there's still some questions there. And Allen Lazard is what Allen Lazard is. That has never changed. You're going to need more from Randall Cobb. I don't know if you're going to get it, or they're just going to have to just run the ball down Minnesota's throat. I think Watson's just the key. He practiced limited today. If he's out there, I love the Packers in the spot, weather or no weather. I just feel like Minnesota is fraudulent no matter what a lot of people think. So I'm starting pretty much any of them with confidence against that secondary, because we've seen in the last couple of weeks, the secondary is not good. And Christian Watson, like I said, Farrell said it perfectly. If you're in the 20 spot or like the 15, 16 spot in the main event or football guys, and you have Christian Watson, you have to start him, because he's a guy, and against, if everything goes well, that could put up 30 plus easy. And it's pretty hard to say no to him this week.
What about, guys, the Thursday night game last night? Treylon Burks, Terp, I'll throw this to you here. He gets 8 targets. He catches 4 of them for 66 yards. He also had a 20-yard carry in this game. Now, this is with Joshua Dobbs at quarterback, who, quite frankly, played better than I thought he would have played last night. And now we're talking about next year, Ryan Tannehill not being on this team. I don't know if Malik Willis is going to be ready, but Terp, what do you do with a guy like Treylon Burks when you consider that, best ball drafts are going to be starting with the FFPC in a couple of weeks? How do you treat this guy for 2023?
The first thing I do is, next time I'm in Vegas next year, I'm probably going to owe somebody a steak dinner, because being injured and stuff, I don't forget my bets. And Robert Woods wasn't much better, but he's going to beat him overall.
Well, and you're exactly right. He wasn't much better, and last night he dropped a pass.
But he's still better, and it's still
direction of the game. But just so you know, the score in that is receptions Woods 49.
I knew you would have these stats. 29. It's out of the way right off the top.
What in the Josh Dobbs is going to happen to pick up those 20 catches in next week? I don't know.
A miracle.
God bless you. Miracles do happen. Season for miracles. And, both of them together have accumulated 2 touchdown passes, 1 each this year. It's very impressive.
That passing game is so bad. Derrick Henry, without them, they might be the worst team in football.
And
back to Burks. Burks next year, if he gets a good quarterback, it's a big if.
Well,
I mean,
you talk about next year about these two players, and Burks looked good doing it last night, guys. But you just look at the numbers. Chargers, Tampa, Dolphins. They throw the ball 200 more times than Tennessee Titans. You go down the next crew, Kansas City, Cincinnati, New York Jets even. 125 to 150 more passes a year. What
massive.
is
That's targets.
This passing game is a fugazi, and so Burks won't have his opportunity.
Might be the worst in football.
Yeah, it just I will let someone else take that risk with Burks, and I thought Woods would elevate just probably numbers of receptions alone. I was wrong. We had him at 75, 80.
We both were wrong, but
there was just nothing there. And I don't think it's ever going to be there. The passing game, what existed of this passing game in the coaching staffs moved to Atlanta. And we're left with what we have here. And there's no passing game here. Now, they can make hires, over the season. And this Dobbs, which is a joy to watch, he may change.
Great story, but not an NFL starting quarterback.
There's nothing here in this. It's very unusual that you can take a segment of the offense and one whole team and say there's nothing there. But that's truly what the Tennessee Titans passing game is.
100%.
There is a potential out in Ryan Tannehill's contract after this season. If the Titans do indeed let him go, they're left with Dobbs. They're left with Malik Willis, who was a third-round pick this past year. Not really convinced that a third-round pick that the franchise views him as their future franchise quarterback. But there should be some quarterbacks changing teams this year. Maybe they can, get a stopgap guy in there that can make Treylon Burks worthwhile. But I'm with Farrell. I'm probably going to let somebody else draft Burks next year. I was not really all that high on him coming into the NFL draft, and then when he ended up in Tennessee, I liked him even less. I will admit this: he's flashed some talent that I thought I would not see from him in year one. I thought he was more of a raw receiver. I was clearly wrong on that. So the future can be bright with Burks even as soon as next year, but he's got to get a halfway decent quarterback in there right now. And as Terp said,
and an offensive-minded offensive coordinator is not just going to hand the ball to Derrick Henry.
Another good point, too.
It's not a winning formula.
Yeah, you guys both brought that up for sure. I mean, they run the ball a ton. They just don't pass it. Let's go to Seattle. Tyler Lockett had a finger surgery, right? Now, he's questionable to face the Jets this week. He went through the Seahawks walkthrough on Wednesday, but got a DNP. Then he returned to practice on Thursday, got the questionable tag today. NFL Network's Mike Garafolo said that Lockett is expected to play in, quite frankly, not a great matchup against the Jets secondary. But, Farrell, what are we doing with Lockett? Because this is a guy that we, by and large, have started every single week this season. Now we're faced with another tough decision here. Do we play Lockett coming off the finger surgery, just 2 weeks removed from that finger surgery in a tough matchup where he's probably going to be the second target behind DK Metcalf?
If you would check with Dave Terpoilli's running buddy Armand Armani and see where he has that drafting of Lockett last year, because I believe the fantasy football world, including myself, has continued to sleep on this player.
100%.
You're dealing with a guy here that if he does play this week and next week, he'll go over 1,000 yards for the fourth year in a row. And he's going to catch more balls this year than he caught last year. I guess fantasy players just thought that this player wouldn't be successful without Russell Wilson at the helm to feed him the ball. I don't know what we were thinking, but I didn't draft him enough. And I would have to have got him late and have an embarrassment of riches at the position, or very good tight ends to put into a dual flex to leave this player on the bench, because I think he's tough as nails. I think he'll be the best 9-fingered receiver in the league, and that might be better than some of the others. And it would be very difficult at this point in time to put that player on the bench.
Tyler Lockett, according to fantasymojo.com, at FantasyMojo on Twitter, Darren Armani, the godfather of the Pros versus Joes contest. Anytime we bring up ADP data, it's always from him. In the main event, when the main event closed on opening weekend, Tyler Lockett was going off the board as wide receiver 46 at the 905.
That's insane.
Ironically, the receiver that went right after him on average, Treylon Burks, the guy we were just talking about. Yeah.
Wow.
I'll just give you a few of the guys that were going ahead of Tyler Lockett in drafts. Robert Woods, another guy we just talked about, went ahead of him. Kadarius Toney,
There you go.
Let's not mention that name.
Hunter Renfro Allen Robinson was going ahead of him. Elijah Moore, Darnell Mooney, Michael Thomas, Rashad Bateman, Juju Smith-Schuster. The list goes on. So interesting stuff there with Tyler Lockett. The Terp, you're of the same mind as Farrell with Lockett, right?
100%. Again, if you have Tyler Lockett, you're using him this week. Sauce should be on DK. So, I mean, you should get pretty much Lockett roaming free. I mean, obviously, he has to be able to catch the ball with that finger issue. So that's definitely a worry. But my guess is he's out there, he has no issues. So he's starting with confidence.
Let's talk about another guy that I don't know if anybody's starting him with confidence this week. It's Chris Olave. He's dealing with a hamstring, which is never good for a receiver. He got in limited practice Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But this is going against Terps Eagles. Again, not a good matchup here. Olave has flashed, but I don't know how confident you can be starting this guy in this matchup. Olave probably got you there, so maybe you flex him out. But guys, I'm trying to do what I can to not start Chris Olave in my leagues this week. Terp, what do you think?
I agree. I mean, it's not a great spot. A team that obviously just got gutted by the Cowboys. On Christmas Eve. They're coming home. They need to win to get home field advantage with the backup quarterback. Hurts is not playing. So there's definitely, emphasis on getting this win. I don't see there being any way you start any Saints, Kamara, Taysom Hill, Olave, definitely none of the other guys. I just feel like Eagles go in there and make the statement that they need to make, get the win, get out of there, and get ready for 2 games in Philly. I can't start Olave unless – I mean, your options would have to be really, really bad.
Farrell, what about you? I don't know how many Olave teams that you have.
A couple, and he was one of my targets in Dynasty, but I feel the same way. They ran a stat by us recently. I think I might have mentioned it on the show, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself. But quarterback rating against the Eagles' corners is similar to if the quarterback would throw the ball into the dirt every time. This has been a great defense, and
it has been.
Everything about it is pointing. Everything about it for the Saints points wrong this weekend. If the game was in New Orleans, I would feel different. I don't know about not playing Kamara. That's the only thing that I might disagree with.
Well, what
Mr. Terpoilli?
What has Kamara shown you in the last? I don't know, since the Raiders game, that would give you any confidence outside of the first round picking?
No, he has not been used properly. Again, it comes down to a situation of what you have.
Of course, running back position is gutted as it is.
Yeah, you had to spend some money on.
Of course,
you had to spend some money on Kamara or draft position to get him. So, people. I don't want people saying, "Oh, those guys said don't start Kamara, so let's fire up Josh Kelly." Maybe
let's not get too crazy.
Yeah, so it's there's. Yeah, I'm with you on this. I'm very thrilled to see what the Eagles have done this year, and I think the biggest thing, tip of the cap to the Eagles front office, and Dave Terpoilli will remember when your general manager got a lot of side eyes around the league. He was not well accepted when he got in the league, and he had to
not anymore.
It's a complete different thing now. And congratulations to him who went out and got an old school backup quarterback. He has a great quarterback. He went out and got a quarterback. He went out and got a backup quarterback to come off the bench and win a game. And not only is that important for his football team, but everyone that had Philadelphia Eagles in their lineups could benefit from knowing to trust him, including Balky. The only bad call you had last week was on the Devontae Smith setting him, and we said no, you got to get that player in the lineup. And the thing about it is, it's probably one of the most underrated players this year has been Miles Sanders, and Dave Terpoilli is holding a bit of a grudge against Miles Sanders because he saw those 0 TDs. And every time I'd be watching Red Zone, because I think I think, Balky, we're at 12 touchdowns for Miles Sanders, 11 rushing touchdowns. I would, Terp, every time Sanders was scoring, I say, I wonder if Dave Terpoilli's seeing that one. And
I actually have him in a lot of spots, but I don't have him as much as I should have, obviously.
What a year.
After 0 touchdowns, it's hard for anybody out there.
You go 0 running backs and you take Jacobs, Miles Sanders, and Williams from up in Detroit, and you'd be just sitting right where you need to be right now. That's exactly where you need to be.
You know, and it wasn't just the no touchdowns thing. Remember, like, if you remember back this summer, Miles Sanders told fantasy players, don't draft me. I mean, he's telling people not to draft him, and maybe it's just
values in fantasy football.
He just wanted to find out who his true fans were. Anybody who drafted Miles Sanders. Terp, we have delayed this long enough. Let's talk about your big week here, being a finalist. One of 63 finalists in the 2022 FFPC Best Ball Tournament. It's going to be awesome. You are going for a $200,000 grand prize. So congrats on doing that. And tell us a little bit about what the ride's been thus far. Have you followed this? I believe this is Peanut Butter Jalen time.
That's
is
correct.
Team,
yeah.
Right? Have you been following this specific Best Ball entry throughout the season, or just when it started advancing?
So I'll start from the beginning. I drafted this team with one of my best friends, Lamar. Lives in Colorado, has never played in the FFPC before. Sent out a text to all my friends like right before everything, and I was like, does anybody want to do a draft? You know, you guys can do most of the draft. I'll put my 2 cents in, obviously overrule you if I think you're doing something stupid. So we talked like the week before, and all he cared about was Javonte Williams, Mark Andrews, and Derrick Henry. And if anybody has watched these shows, there's 3 players that I hated this year and didn't want any of them. So we argued all week. He could send me text messages about, I'm going to go take 2 tight ends. And I was like, just relax. It's going to be okay. So we get there. We're picking 12. Wasn't crazy about it. Mark Andrews goes 11. He was the guy that out of the 3, I was like, all right, if Mark Andrews is there, you can take him, but that's it. Mark Andrews goes 11, was pumped, was excited. So then we took Diggs and Saquon Barkley. He really didn't want Saquon Barkley, but I kind of like forced him into doing it. After that, it kind of flowed. Obviously, I will go through the lineup here soon. But since then, like the first, I'd say 7 weeks of the season, we were way above everybody else. Like nobody was close to us. So he was all juiced up. We were at a wedding in October, and he was like, yeah, we're going to take it. We're winning it all. And I'm like, all right. Well, after that wedding, I don't know what happened, but I don't think our team scored 50 points for like 5 weeks in a row. So like going into the last week before the cutoff, we never really, it wasn't a team I was looking at. We were in 5th place in the league, like no 60 points, I think, plus behind, like not even really thinking like, all right, this team might sneak in. Evan Ingram went nuts. Trevor Lawrence went nuts. We faded a couple things on Monday night when Kyler tore his ACL. So we get in. Great. Obviously, in the first week, FFPC, you got to be in the top 2. We were 3rd going into Monday Night Football. We needed A.J. Dillon against the Rams. He got it done. So we move on. And then I looked at the rosters of the top 12 teams that we faced in the round that was last week. And some of these teams are just disgusting. Like no injuries, like nothing, like no problems. Like you see some of these best ball teams. How do you survive without injuries? It's crazy. Not like there's teams just like nasty. So looking at the lineups, we have Thursday night. We have Trevor Lawrence in that disaster with Zach Wilson. Lawrence did good. Ingram did great. We also have Marvin Jones, but he's kind of irrelevant. And then we get there, everything's going well, and we're 2nd place going into Saturday was all the games. We had Devonta Smith, Gallup, that all worked out. So we get to Sunday, yeah, all the 3 games on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And we needed A.J. Dillon to pass Chuba Hubbard, who's on our team. He got passed by like a point. So that was good, and it'll come back, later on in all of this. But then we were fading Tyreek Hill. We were fading Jalen Waddle, fading Tua. And that first half was just like, come on. Like
a disaster.
Like it couldn't have went any worse. So then I'm literally driving to Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. I don't remember what day it was. I'm just like, all right, whatever happens. Like, it's probably not meant to be. Like, and then Tua just implodes in the second half. So then we go to the Denver game.
And Hill and Waddle do like nothing in the
nothing.
Yeah.
And literally, A.J. Dillon gets me to where I need to get to. So then it comes down to Cam Akers and it comes down to the Greg Dulcich. And most people thinking like, why? I'm in there like people are unwrapping gifts, taking pictures, playing with my daughter. I'm in there watching 45-7, the last drive, praying that Dulcich doesn't catch a pass because we don't know at that point that would eliminate us. But if he catches another pass, we're out based off everything. So then, all right, fine, cool. We survived that. I kept texting him. I was like, dude, I need a new pair of underwear because I'm running out. This is just getting a little too crazy for me. Like, we have to, all these fades are still, we're not even done yet. So we get to the Tampa game, Tampa, Arizona, and James Conner, I think he was 4 or 5 guys that owned him at a 12. So he was a big fade. So, of course, if you watch the whole game like I did, every single freaking play, my wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, you'll figure it out eventually. James Conner, they go to overtime. And I'm just like, he gets one, I think it's like 1.6 points or something like that, 2 points. They get the ball first. Thankfully, Tampa Bay stops them and they just implode. And then Brady just does Brady. James Conner scoring 2 points would eliminate us. So then we survive and get the Monday night. And we need 30, I think it was 30 or so points from Austin Eckler to get us. There was other people in there, but they're really irrelevant. Eckler does nothing the first half. I'm just like, all right, texting like it's our time. And then Eckler scores a touchdown. And Eckler scores another touchdown. I'm like, all right, it's 7 points. And like, I know this game's pretty much over, but thankfully, Eckler didn't get there. We finished in third, right on the line. Now we're living the dream this week.
Living the dream. That's what a sweat. What a Christmas weekend sweat.
It was crazy.
So, I know that you have looked at what had to happen for you guys to move on. Have you combed through any of the other lineups here?
I've looked at every single one of the 63 lineups.
Yeah, he's already told us.
I know everybody that I have to fade.
So okay, so who is like, okay, I don't want to necessarily know the fades, but who are the guys that are unique to your squad that can really deliver this $200,000 to you?
Mike Williams. I am the only owner that owns him. One person at 63. He is my golden ticket. Like, I was shocked when I saw it, looking at all the, rosters and stuff and like, doing all the math and seeing who owns who and stacks and all that stuff. Was shocked. Is it the greatest matchup? No, but he is definitely a guy that could go nuclear one of these games. Besides that, Chuba Hubbard's another guy.
Is it the Sunday night game too this week?
I think so.
So Mike Williams in primetime. That could be
I think they might have flexed it out, but I could be wrong.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, they did.
It's still a 4 o'clock game, so it'll be a later game. But he is definitely the guy that, I mean, if you look at all the rosters, like some guys who have low ownership, he's a guy that I was very, very surprised. And definitely it's going to come down to Monday night with us because another team that I was shocked is low owned is we have all Buffalo. We have Allen, we have Diggs, and we have Knox. And Allen and Diggs they only have 6 out of 63. So we could be dancing. Like I said, I was on the show earlier and I said, just give me a point total that I know I have to get to. And no matter what it is, just knowing that 60 points from Diggs and Knox or 80 points in Allen, I don't care what it is. Just give me a number that in my brain that I know that, all right, I got to fade T. Higgins because he's high owned and I can get that number and we got a chance is all I ask for.
I got it.
Congratulations to you, bud. I think this is one of the best formats of all FFPC events.
I couldn't agree more. I mean,
I'm in one of the never too earlies, and I missed it. Your success story. I had the flip side of that, but it was great, to be sitting in. And Balky, I'll tell you who's in this group with Terp. Of course, you would recognize all the names, but I have 2 great teams to work. To root for the Dave Terpoilli team. And what's your partner's name in this?
Lamar Armstrong. He's getting married next year. Shout out to him.
We said you sent an email.
Round. I was like, you got this. And
Lamar, you're lucky you got that email. Dave Terpoilli said, I sent an email to all my friends. I just did it.
He was the only one that answered.
I just did a brief search and I did not get an email. Balky, I don't know about you.
You'll get one next year. Don't worry.
I didn't get an email now, but I'll tell you what, another great friend that is in this group of 63 is one Craig Campbell, guest on the show and great KFFSC player. Hey, there's a question I want to ask. I can't wait any longer to get to it. There's Balky teased. What did you know about Evan Ingram that we didn't? And I would
Evan
like
Ingram
to.
was one of my most highly owned tight ends.
Yes, and I would like to put into effect that you did not know a damn thing about Evan Ingram. that quite honestly, Evan Ingram gave you 4 games of not just one catch, but one target. Evan Ingram couldn't find the end zone. If Travis Etienne face blocked and Gronk slammed the entire defense and pointed to it. However, he has had during this last 3, maybe 4 weeks, a transformation of sorts. And this kind of reminds me of what your coach at Jacksonville did exactly when he was in Philadelphia, is you never knew which player was going to stand out there. And I would say that's the only thing that you knew about Evan Ingram is it might happen sometime, but you got to know when it's
sometime.
happening.
Peterson loves the tight end. Ingram,
he loved all the other tight ends. He loved all the other tight ends until double-digit weeks. Mm-hmm. I'm saying that if you had started Evan Ingram, it wouldn't matter what he did.
Wouldn't matter at all.
All right,
we have clarified that.
Balky, if you have any further questions about Ingram,
the only thing I will say is that if because I was looking over all the Terps teams, not just the best ball, but the main event, football guys, everything. And I can't remember who your number 1 owned player was, but the number 2 player that you own right now was Evan Ingram, and which surprised me, that he would be your number 2, not tight end, but like the overall player. Listen, I'm not an Evan Ingram guy, but clearly
I wouldn't be here without Evan Ingram.
That's the point I want to bring up.
I'm not in any way like victory lapping Evan Ingram because early in the season
you would be victory lapping if you didn't have Evan Ingram. You would already be at the top of the mountain without Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram dragging you down.
Let's clarify something. Next week, if Evan Ingram gets me to the promised land and I win, I will come back on this show and victory lap him 100 times in circles.
You'll have to come back on this show because, see, this is not like RotoViz. Here, like Balky says, he looks at all your teams. We're auditing your stuff.
Audit them all. You're going to see a lot of bad ones.
You're headbutting your kid. You know, I can catch you headbutting your kid on Facebook.
Yeah, most of the ones that I drafted on this show weren't good.
Here, it
takes one.
We got you out of your, we got you out of your comfort zone. We did.
All right, so I guess the thing that we're gathering here was that he was never a target for you, Terp, but when you were looking for a tight end late, you stumbled upon.
That's pretty much what I did most of the year. I faded the top tight ends, and then just in best ball, just drafted a bunch of them. I like Ingram's talent. I like the fit. You know, they went out and got him early in free agency, obviously with Peterson. Did it work out early in the season? No. Did it work out when it mattered? Of course.
All right, so let's talk about a guy I don't know if you're necessarily worried about for best ball, but maybe to help out some of the viewers. Antonio Gibson is officially out. Do you have to find a way to get Brian Robinson in your starting lineup against a bad Cleveland Browns rush defense?
I feel like you have to. I mean, I feel like there's really no other. If you have him, you're starting him, and you're starting him with confidence. I mean, he's a guy that I would love personally to own this week. And especially against that defense, which is just dreadful against the run.
Dreadful defenses against the run. They're all in the similar AFC division and on the schedule versus the Jacksonville Jags. I thought, and one of the guys that you really, really backed, and you brought me very much over to your side, was Travis Etienne. When I got to Las Vegas in the main event, he was just going too high. I couldn't grab him soon enough based on where my draft spot was. But I wanted to fill this player in with rosters everywhere, and I was really glad to get him. And when James Robinson moved out, we said, "Oh, it's the Holy Land." It's been good. I still don't think we've seen the right Etienne that we're going to see in the future.
I agree,
but it's good.
It's been good, not great. I mean,
what has he done for you? Okay, amongst your winning teams, has Etienne been an element of that?
No.
Okay. Well, that's because you had to give so much for him, or because when you drafted him, you said, okay, I'm good at running back now, so I can build other positions?
I drafted him a lot as my number 1 running back.
Gotcha.
So did he perform to that price when I took him pretty much over AJ Brown, Tyreek Hill, guys like that? No.
Well, you can't blame him. I can't blame you for taking him, and I think I just wonder if drafting early, if he won't carry such a strong price next year.
All right, so let me point out a couple of things on that. So number one, Terp, he was going in the 3rd round. You said you targeted him in the 3rd round a lot last year. He went off as the running back 14. Currently in FFPC scoring, he's running back 18. I don't think that's necessarily a bust. Okay,
definitely not a bust. Just not what I expected.
Not what you expected. I get it. Now, since Farrell loves me bringing up the Better Sports Network, I had to record a promo.
The Better Sports Network.
Yes, exactly. And I had to record a promo for a prediction for 2023. And I went a little bold to have some fun with it. I said Josh Allen wins the MVP next year. Okay, you say, Bulky, that's not bold at all. Well, here's the connection. I think Josh Allen wins the MVP, but I think he loses in the AFC Championship in Orchard Park to none other than the Jacksonville Jaguars at the hands of Trevor Lawrence, who also garners some MVP votes next year. And I think Travis Etienne, this is my big, bold prediction, and I think Terp has either poisoned my mind or enlightened my mind on this. I don't know which way yet. I said Etienne would finish as a top 3 running back next year in FFPC scoring.
I sign off on that.
I know you do. Obviously, I know you do. You're already the president of the fan club. But I'm just saying,
trying to get this guy at a bargain price, guys. I really did.
I said something on the show. I said something on the show that I got criticized a long time ago. If Tony Pollard is the number 1 running back in Dallas, there's no Zeke. They finally decide he's dusty. I would take Tony Pollard as the number 1 overall running back in fantasy football next year.
And you know what? And I feel like I remember you saying that, Terp, but I feel like I've heard versions of that from other people too. Like I
not original, Dave.
There's a lot. Well, I'm not. I mean, Terp
I'm saying I'm the first one that said
Terp might have been the first guy I heard.
I said I would take him number 1 overall in drafts.
Right. Yes. Okay. A guy who went number 1 overall in some drafts this year was Christian McCaffrey. He started the season on the Panthers. He's entering the season on the Niners. You're starting him this weekend against the Raiders. You don't watch the show to know that. Same thing with George Kittle. But what about a guy like Brandon Ayuk in championship week, knowing that Deebo Samuel has officially been ruled out, knowing that Mr. Relevant, Brock Purdy, has that offense operating at a pretty high level? Terp, what do you think about Ayuk against Farrell's Raiders in week 17?
It's really, really hard to start Ayuk with confidence. I mean, Raiders are pretty much doing nothing. I mean, they're benching everybody. There's absolutely tons of worry. I mean, Derek Carr did not deserve to be benched. I'm not saying he played well this year, but he definitely did not deserve anything of what he got. You know, being away from the team now, like Jared Stidham, like what are we doing? I just feel like the 49ers go in there, it's a first half game, and they pretty much just blow them out, and then just pretty much rest most of the guys. I feel like you can find I love Ayuk. Was a big fan of Ayuk all year, but you just need so many things to go right for him to get to that number. So to me, he's a sit this week.
What about the Eagles? I mean, is it going to be Gardner Minshew this week, Terp?
Jalen Hurts is not playing. He's doubtful. I mean, they said he could play again if it was the playoffs. There's really no reason for him to play. I mean, I feel like they should have no issues with the Saints team, who's pretty much mailed it in. So you obviously starting Brown, Smith, all those guys with confidence. But Hurts he's 18 out of 63 in the best ball thing, which is shocking to me.
Yeah, that is pretty surprising.
There's a lot of teams with no quarterbacks this week between Tua, him, and just a couple other guys who've been out. It's very surprising.
That's crazy. And how did the Hurts teams advance? I had so many Hurts teams advance.
There's a Hurts team I saw last week that put up like 190 without any quarterback at all.
That's insane.
That just shows you the talent elsewhere. Tyler Higbee helped that. Well, let's not. I don't know where Tyler Higbee came from last week, but
yeah,
he's another.
You know what, guys? Monday night was that Monday Night Football? Yeah, Packers Rams Monday night. ESPN came back from a break, and the Rams had the ball right around the 10-yard line or so, and ESPN put up a graphic. Rams only team in the NFL to not have a passing touchdown to a tight end this season.
That's right.
And ever since they threw up that graphic, the very next play, Higbee caught a touchdown, and he has not stopped catching touchdowns since that graphic. He's going to finish the season with like 11 touchdowns.
He might be even finishing in the top 10 of tight ends, because if you think about it, tight end position this year has been terrible.
That's the ESPN curse, but he's got a new quarterback. New quarterback likes a tight end. You got to find somebody to catch the ball out there.
100%.
Terp, you've done a great job talking about not only because we prodded you and you've talked about your successes, but you've done a great job talking about guys that you missed on. And I think this is a time of the year, if you have a win rate of 30 or 40%, you've still got 70 to 60% of guys you missed on or guys you didn't put together correctly. I was actually able to find a lineup this week where Freiermuth had 3 19-point games when I left him on the bench of every one of them. I don't know what I was thinking there.
When you look back at some of these things, it's painful.
It's just, looking back is unhealthy. But, I have a holy trinity of ideas for 2023 for you, that will lead to your success. First of all is
don't draft Broncos.
No. Be patient. I'm talking slow because I need some caffeine and some bourbon. And by the way, we're going to have some bourbon when we go to dinner on our bet.
Don't worry, I'll be there.
They have reserved a bottle of Pappy for us.
I don't even know what that is, but whatever.
Pappy Van Winkle. That's the
we're going to get you out of the East. That's part of the Trinity. We're going to get you out of the East this year. We're going to get you experience. I mean, it's kind of like me saying I'm coming to Philadelphia and saying, I've never heard of the Liberty Bell, but that's okay, Terp.
Or a cheesesteak.
Or a cheesesteak, yeah, even better. But okay, Terp. I am also going to treat someone to dinner that night because not only are you taking me, but I'm taking Balky. And all three of us are going to be there. So it's going to be a great, great evening. Okay. Terp's Holy Trinity. Return Farrell's phone calls a little bit more effectively. Always get around to it, but come in quick. The other rule 2 of the Holy Trinity is don't hold a grudge against former players, especially Eagles. And number 3 is to draft more teams in Kentucky, starting with our.
You got me in one. You got one.
Yeah, you did.
I told you I'd be back.
You drafted one.
I started off 5-0 and then win a game after that.
We do expect you to return, but we want the effervescence of your personality in the room, and we'd love to have it during Super Bowl weekend. And we would love to have it
to be in the league. I don't know if I will ever commit to going to Kentucky. I'm not going to give you any false hope there.
Yeah, you're
going to me this year. It'll either be Kentucky or Vegas.
And you get to go to both places.
Yeah.
You're a legend in Las Vegas.
Just stay in Kentucky and then don't even go back to Philly and then just go out to Vegas from Kentucky.
I love that. I love the thought process.
Plenty to do.
My wife's going to sign off on that with a baby.
Well, we can talk to her.
You can talk to her. Try and negotiate with her. Good luck.
Oh, okay. Is there anyone else you want to talk about? Let's highlight it. Terp's adventures and failures in drafting from 2022. That you're following the Golden Trinity, the triangle of success that you won't have in 2023. So we might as well revisit them here as the year comes to a close.
There were a lot of mistakes. I'm not going to sit here and say they weren't.
But can you think of one glaring one? I mean, I gave you Freiermuth.
Portland Sutton was one of my number one players. Massive, just disaster in Denver. Just complete meltdown. Elijah Moore, massively owned guy, just completely just was a disaster. Injuries hurt me with Trey Lance. Injuries hurt me with Rashad Bateman. Injuries hurt me with Treylon Burks and just inefficiency at the quarterback position.
You were never a Jonathan Taylor guy, even if you had the one spot.
Never drafted him.
Taylor guy.
Outside of a couple best ball teams, never drafted him in any big leverage spot.
Did you have Cooper Kupp anywhere?
He was another guy that I was not on.
So injury situations. Do I remember, and Balky, you may remember this, but Raider tight end Waller, I kind of remember you being down on him.
Not on him either.
Okay, so here's the stupid thing. The reason why you think I was down on him, and I can't remember if we talked about this on the show, I made a bet with the commish because we got into a heated argument about Darren Waller and a tight end I'll mention shortly.
Who's arguing with you?
The Commish Bryce, and I.
Oh, Commish Bryce. Okay.
Yeah,
Bryce is crazy.
Not you, Commish. I'm sorry.
Scared me there for a minute.
Yeah, not you. But yeah, Bryce and I got into a heated debate, which we don't really get into a whole lot of. And I don't know at the time what I was thinking, but we made a bet and quite frankly, I haven't checked to see who won this bet. But we made a bet, who's have more FFPC points this year, Darren Waller, which is what he said, which is why you probably thought I was down on him. You know who I took? Kyle Pitts, who is obviously just a massive disappointment.
Massive bust.
I think I gotta check that.
It might be close.
I'm sure it is close. And obviously Pitts is out for the year and Waller is playing this weekend.
I think he still won.
But we'll see. I don't know. But I got to revisit that because we might have a steak dinner or something of that ilk on it. I'm not really sure what we were wagering, but I got to look back on that. So I wasn't necessarily down on Waller this year. I was just down on him. I was for sure down on him versus Pitts at some point in drafting season.
My rookies guys were who I was proud of. Balky and I talked early on about how much we liked the running back, the rookie running back up the Jets, but how much I liked Walker out of Seattle. And I didn't see that big of separation amongst them. And, I still don't. I was very, very happy with Walker. And I tried to get everyone to join me on the bandwagon about Dulcich at Denver. And some of the guys in Kentucky did, but very few people did. And because he started injured, that wasn't one that I expected to come this far. I never was a Burks guy. But my guy that I failed with, who I really liked and watched him at the Senior Bowl and did all, Jalen Tolbert. Apparently, Jalen Tolbert did not even find the stadium. We've got other rookie wide receivers that are doing things like Romeo Doubs. So I was giving him. He ended up being drafted at our Super Bowl event before he was even drafted by Green Bay. But yeah, Tolbert looked the part in camp for 2 weeks.
And then what happened? He just literally fell off the face of the earth.
Apparently,
I would know somewhere.
That's the story still to be told because he's been buried on that practice squad for the entire year, and they've needed some help at the position. But it also
even gave him a chance.
Yeah, and boy, they sure gave T.Y. Hilton a chance. You talk about a team that
he's taking advantage of it.
You talk about a team that knows what you can do to sign a player to make your players better. Yeah. And you think about what that kind of player might have done in a locker room at the New York Jets, or you can think of a variety of teams that he might have been able to help along the way this season. But I was glad to see that he found a home. But those were my two young guys, Walker and Dulcich, who I don't think a lot of other people were on, but I was proud to be on them.
I'll tell you, I'll give you the holy trinity of mistakes for me this year, and none of them involve specific. Well, one of them involves a specific player. I'll lead off with that. I freely drafted Najee Harris when everybody was letting him fall to sometimes the second round. And I was of the opinion of look, this guy wasn't efficient last year and he was awesome because of the volume. And then this year, it didn't happen. He was inefficient again, and he was a massive bust. I'm never going to make the volume mistake again. Well, until 2023, when I probably will make the volume mistake again.
Right.
But the two other things, and I've shared this on the show before, a lot of people will draft a top 3 or top 4 quarterback, and then they won't draft a quarterback the rest of the way. I take that to the next level where I'll draft a top 11, 12, 13 quarterback, and I won't draft a backup quarterback the rest of the way. Not making that mistake again, thanks to guys like Dak Prescott early on in the season and then Matthew Stafford later in the season. Really train wrecked a lot of my teams because people are shrewd, and there just wasn't.
Trey Lance early in the season. I mean,
Trey Lance is another one. Yep. Yeah. Although I didn't have him on a bunch of teams, I had him on like 1 or 2, but he's another example of that. So I won't make that mistake again. And I based a lot of my Kentucky team's structure around, normally I faded my second running back way too late in those drafts every year. This year I was going to make sure I wasn't going to do that. But the problem, what I screwed up doing that process, even though the process improved this past year, I invested in a second running back earlier than I normally would have. But that second running back was by and large one of 2 players. 2 players I knew I was overweight on, and I knew if anything bad happened to him, it was going to be curtains for my teams. And that was Elijah Mitchell and it was Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Wow.
Elijah Mitchell obviously was terrible from the get-go. I mean, not terrible, but because of the injury, what have you. And then Edwards-Helaire, he was smoking mirrors. Even when he was good, guys, he was smoking mirrors.
Oh my God. The first 2-3 games, he was put up 20 points, but they were everybody saw it.
He wasn't high volume.
You could trade him. You would have traded him in a second if you could have.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the issue I had this year. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to repeat the same process as far as second running backs go next year, but I'm going to try to be more diverse with that, which I know Farrell loves because, hey, bulky, that means you got to get more teams if you want to be more diverse, which is true.
Hey, that is a concept. Right. Dave Terpoilli, if you ever do make it to Kentucky, you'll have the pleasure of meeting Kirby and Melissa Barker, a husband and wife team that draft here. They're really a cool couple. And, you think about the really good players. I always think they're a year ahead of me. And Bulky, as I was listening to what you were saying, this year, Kirby and Melissa's best team have Tua, Cousins, and Mahomes at quarterback. Now, naturally, they're playing Mahomes, but it's and they didn't overpay for it.
Well, and they kept other people from having those quarterbacks at a minimum, I guess. So there's that too. Yeah. But final question here for Terp. Well, I'll say final question. We'll rifle through a few starts or sits after this. But Farrell, go ahead and ask number 10 of Dave.
We've had some really good we've had some really good week 17, week 15, week 16 bust and sleepers. And God, we've been through a lot of players tonight, so you're going to be challenged because you can't bring up a guy that we've already talked about. But I need a guy that's going to fail owners if they put him in their lineup this week. And then I need that guy that just may take them to the promised land.
Failure is David Montgomery.
Okay.
I don't believe – number one, I've always said he's just not that good. Herbert back. Justin Fields with his rushing upside. In a game script that Detroit still has something to play for. They're not out of the playoff hunt. At home, that crowd should be, in a game, first meaningful game they played this late in the season, and I couldn't tell you how long.
Yeah.
Stafford days, with early on. Dave Montgomery's my fade. Guy that I think is under the radar that, should be I wouldn't say in lineups, it's tough. Is Marvin Jones. I feel like Jacksonville's a lot of smoke and mirrors right now. I don't feel like they're going to start. They might start the guys, but I don't feel like they're going to play a ton of them, like a ton of snaps. This could be like they go up 7-0, 14-0, and just pull the plug. A guy like Marvin Jones, I think, would stay in the game because, obviously Kirk, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, Lawrence, ETN are guys that I think would be out first. So I feel like he could be like a 5 for 80 and a touchdown type of guy. So they're my two guys.
I like them. Thank you.
All right, guys, let's go through these because it's already 11 o'clock in the PM on the East Coast. So we'll get through these as much as we can. I want to go back to the top of the show. Our resident Ivy League professor, Hudson Kern-Reeve, noted FFPC and KFFSC champion, chiming in with a tight end question. David Njoku or Darren Waller this week? Darren Waller, of course, getting the 49ers at home. David Njoku is going to be on the road in our nation's capital, taking on the Foreskins. Farrell, I'll throw this to you first. Who do you like?
I'm going to neither, but I'm going to throw in with Waller here. And I'm going to hope for the same Baker Mayfield, Tyler Higbee magic that came out in L.A. to come for the Vegas Raiders this weekend. So I'll go Waller.
Terp, I'm gonna say Njoku here. So Terp, you got to break the tie.
I'm going Waller too. I don't see anything in Deshaun Watson right now that makes me think that even I would want to pick him over Stidham right now. I just feel like it's a good game flow. He'll be dumping off a lot of passes. It should be a Waller. Nothing special, but he would be my pick.
Waller over Njoku, say the majority here, Hudson. So hopefully good luck on that. Let's stick with that same game. And we'll go out to, as I bring up my email list here, we'll go over to Miraloma, California. Jake, I've been rolling with Amari Cooper, but do I go with the matchup and play Zay Jones over him this week? Thanks, guys. Jake in Miraloma, California. Terp, I think you just kind of touched on this, that, Zay Jones, because this game means nothing to the Jaguars to get to the postseason, Zay Jones could be a guy who plays a quarter, 2 quarters, maybe part of the second half, and then that's it. With Amari Cooper, you'd like to think that he'll be out there gunning the whole game. You're not a believer in Watson. This doesn't sound like you love either of these players this week, but if you could only pick one, who's it going to be?
I don't love either, but if I had to pick one, it probably would be Amari Cooper. Like I said, Jacksonville, they could surprise everybody and play him the whole game and just blow the doors off the Texans. But I think Cooper is just slightly safer, and that's not saying much.
You guys haven't been paying a hell lot of attention to the scoreboard because Texas has been playing some real football as well as covering most of the games. Look,
also playing very good secondary.
Let's put Zay Jones. Let's put Zay Jones on the field and go with that guy, and let's forget about Amari Cooper here. There's nothing. I see a Cleveland team that's quit in the coaching staff and on the field. Is what I see. So I'm going Zay Jones.
Tim in Baltimore. Thank you, Farrell. Tim in Baltimore. The bagel that Gerald Everett put up last week has me concerned. Would you guys roll with Taysom Hill over him for my championship matchup? Thank you for watching and writing in, Tim in Baltimore. So the excuse me, the matchup we have this week for the New Orleans Saints, they're on the road against Terps Eagles in the city of brotherly love. That's Taysom Hill. Then you're looking at Gerald Everett again, going against the Rams obviously in Los Angeles. Which way do you fall in this, Farrell? Would you play Everett or go with big play Hill?
We're looking at these 600-700 passes from Herbert, and we realize that the starting tight end, I'm assuming he's the starting tight end, comes out with a donut. And Parham was in the receiving. Parham was all over the field catching balls and was impressive in doing so. I agree with Dave Terpoilli in that the fact that Philadelphia defense will blanket and frustrate New Orleans. When they are blanketed and frustrated, they will then go to Taysom Hill and try to create some kind of offense. So consequently, I think he has the ball in his hands from a couple of positions, direct snap as a running back, maybe as a quarterback, maybe as a tight end. I will just roll the dice and say Taysom Hill has the best chance to give me some points here.
You rolling the dice on Taysom Hill as well, Terp?
100% agree. Exactly everything he said.
All right, so we got another question here from Hudson, and I'll put it up on the screen right now. What to do with Josh Jacobs this week if you somehow survived and got to your championship game with Josh Jacobs putting up 6 against the Steelers? Now he gets the San Francisco 49ers, a tougher matchup, and where his quarterback is going to be Jarrett Stidham making his first NFL start. I always say I'm a weak man. I'm not a strong man. I'm playing Josh Jacobs. Either of you guys strong enough to bench him this week?
Depends what your options are. And if there's probably at this point, you don't have good options. I would sit him if I had a better option, but I don't know who you sit him for.
Terp, you would have to convince yourself that the number one rusher in yards in the NFL that you've got a better option on your team. I don't think you do. I don't think you do, Terp. You would have to convince yourself.
Who do you have that's better? That's even a better spot. I'm trying to think of somebody off the top of my head. And I can't.
I don't think you could do that. In Balky, there's a Mr. Joe King. I represented a Joe King back in the day, a wonderful safety. He says I thought Taysom Hill was just a best ball guy. And I think he's right about that. But you know what, Mr. Joe King, this week we kind of know what it can be. And so, I would have him. I only have him on one team, and that team's not in anything. So, I do think he's the best ball guy. But your point is well taken. We've said that on the show before. But if you've got him on your roster and if you're Gerald Everett, your other guy, we're saying Hill.
What are we saying to this email from Mike in Jacksonville Beach, Florida? What's up, Farrell and Balky and Terp? He's been awesome all year, but has the time come to bench Geno Smith for Brock Purdy? Happy New Year. That is Mike in Jacksonville, Florida. We've been talking about this Niners-Raiders game a lot. So Brock Purdy taking on the Raiders. Would you rather play him over Geno Smith, who gets the Jets at home? Terp, I'll go to you first on this one.
I'm going with Purdy, and I think he's just safer. I mean, Geno Smith against probably one of the best secondaries in football. I just feel like Purdy's just a safer option. I don't really like either of them. I would probably start Mark White if possible, if he was available, a guy like that, or Minshew, but over both of those two guys. But without that option, I'm taking Purdy.
You can't come up with a scenario where Smith scores many, many more points than Purdy.
You can't.
But he may score less. So, yeah, I would suppose it has to be the steady Mike Purdy who what's his first? Bryce.
Brock.
Right? Brock. You know, the thing about it was when he got the job, everybody called and said, the Niners are through. And I said, what do you mean the Niners are through? You know, give this guy a chance. And man, has he performed well. It's been a great story for him.
I am agreeing with Terp. If Minshew's out there, I'd rather play Minshew. However, if your choices truly are Smith and Purdy, the text chain that I saw from Drew Maselli and Dave the Dizzle Gerzak this week, I don't think there's any bigger fans of Brock Purdy, maybe Brock Purdy's mom, than those guys right now. So I am flying high. I would roll with Purdy over Geno Smith as well. Last email here. Chad in Holland, Michigan. Hey guys, now that Mike White is active again, does that mean that Zonovan Knight can be trusted? My other option I'm considering is Tyler Algier. Thank you, Chad, for the email. Farrell, I'll throw this to you first here. You have Bam Knight, who is going up against the Seattle Seahawks in the state of Washington. And then you have Tyler Algier, who is going to be at home against the foundering Arizona Cardinals right now. Which one would you play this week?
Tyler has the will and the skill. Balky, you said he couldn't catch passes. He looked good catching one this past week. You know, they can't do it until he's done it. This offensive coordinator seems to be directing the ball into the hands of this player. I like this player, and I like what he's done back at BYU. I think he's one of the better rookies that will continue to grow his career in the second year. This is my guy this weekend over, Seattle. It's tough defenses on both sides of the ball there, and you just don't exactly know what's going to happen in that game. But, man, I love the Mike White option too.
Farrell loves Algier. I love Algier. Hudson Kern-Reeve and Joe King are both saying Algier.
Love the Joe King.
100% agree with all you. It's
okay.
an easy one.
All right, perfect. Algier it is. And listen, it was an easy broadcast tonight with you two pros hanging out with me. I certainly enjoyed it. And Dave, listen, man, thanks so much for hanging out, not only for the full hour, but a little bit beyond the full hour as well. We will continue to follow you on Twitter at Dave Terp. We will continue to watch you on the FFPC Weekly Preview Show with Aiden LaCory. Are you guys going to be doing that for the playoff
challenge? Yeah.
Playoff challenge, you will. Okay, all right, perfect. Yeah. All right, killer, and good luck in winning that $200,000 in the best ball tournament, man. Could be awesome. An awesome beginning to 2020.
I'm excited. I'm hoping for some run good.
Sure. Absolutely. Thanks so much for hopping aboard, man. Happy New Year. We'll talk to you again soon.
You guys have a good one.
Thank you so much. That is Dave Terpoilli, ladies and gentlemen, a 10-time FFPC main event Football Guys League champion and a finalist in the 2023 FFPC Best Ball Tournament. Good to talk to him tonight, Farrell, and awesome stuff from you as well. I feel like this hour always flies by. I was really worried about how well I'd hold up tonight, especially when I just keep thinking about my pillow the whole time. I just want to pass out on there. But you've helped make it through for me. You helped this show throughout the entire span of 2022. So thank you to you, sir, as well.
You made Christmas Day come together for all those kids in your house. And all I did was sit in the easy chair, watch football, and work on my concoctions of bourbon and cough syrup. So, Bucky, you've had a week, and you're holding up well, and you're doing it good. I can't wait to see you on Super Bowl Sunday weekend.
It'll be a lot of fun. I hope I can make it happen because I was disappointed I missed it last year.
Oh, there's no hope. You've already got a room reserved.
All right. Well, I understand all that. There's things I have to take care of on my end, but I'm going to try my best to do it.
Those things will take care of themselves.
Listen, I hope they do. I hope they do because there's nowhere I'd rather be than Louisville, hanging out with you guys. Not only watching the Super Bowl, maybe placing some wagers, and of course the best part, drafting 2023.
Well, we won't have Maselli there. But we'll have Terp there because the Niners will be in the Super Bowl.
That's right.
We should have talked about that while he was on the
Well, when he wins the best ball tournament, we'll have him back next year. Or actually, as Hudson pointed out in the chat, when Evan Engram falls flat this week, Terp will come back and own up to the whole Engram love thing.
Well, it's either gold or the outhouse for Engram. That's what he's delivered all year. 15 targets last week, I think.
Yes, it's insane. It is never the outhouse with the definitive commissioner of fantasy football. It is always gold with Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship boss, Jay Farrell Elliott. Thank you so much for hopping aboard tonight. A happy new year to you, man, and we will do this again next week. Farrell Elliott, ladies and gentlemen, popping aboard tonight on the final HSFF Hour Show, episode 601 of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. I want to thank him. I want to thank Dave Terpoilli, the FFPC, Rob Bryce, and, of course, each and every one of you for hanging out and watching this tonight. As I said before, we are live next Friday at 10/9 Central. I don't have a guest booked yet, and it's because I want to see if we can get some availability for some of the people who are winning 6, maybe even a 7-figure grand prize this week. So we'll have a champion next week, this coming Friday, and it's going to be an awesome show. In case you missed, speaking of people who could win a 7-figure grand prize, Norm Barons, the second place owner in the FFPC main event heading into the final leg of the championship round, was my guest on the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown this past Tuesday. rotoviz.com/podcast, or you can watch the video right here on youtube.com/FFPC Fantasy. High Stakes Lowdown returning live on Tuesday night with the 7th place team owner in the FFPC main event championship round. Matt Berman will be chopping it up with me on Tuesday night. We'll get the immediate fallout from how he did in the championship round and what all went down, what's going to happen over the next 72 hours. It's going to be a lot of fun. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Show on the Better Sports Network goes live Wednesday night at 10/9 Central on the Better Sports Network app, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Where my guest co-host this week is Fantasy Points Liam Murphy is going to join me, and believe we'll have a programming note. I think we are nothing official yet, but I think we might be switching nights now that the NFL season is over for the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show. Tune into that on Wednesday night so you can get all the skinny on when to watch that going forward. Play the FFPC Weekly Challenge at myffpc.com. You don't have to worry about a draft or a salary cap. You can play the 10-team format without kickers and defenses, or 10-player format without kickers and defenses, the 12-player format with kickers and defenses. And you could play for a $35 entry fee, a $200 entry fee in a 100-team pool, a 30-team pool, or the 10-team pool, where if you just beat those other 9 players, you will win a free entry into the 2023 FFPC main event. So you can try and win a $1 million grand prize, and you can be the second ever FFPC millionaire, as we'll be crowning our first one in about a week here. Not a week, in just a few days. The FFPC World Famous Playoff Challenge and the Football Guys Playoff Challenge live at myffpc.com as well. $200 can turn into $500 grand for you in the FFPC version. In the Football Guys version, just $35 to enter. You can win $100K there. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with all your friends, and get notified so you never miss an episode of anything we have here on the FFPC YouTube channel, be it live draft coverage, weekly previews, the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, the Pros versus Joes coverage. That's all right here. Click the notification bell, and then you will always be notified the next time we are going live. Happy New Year, everybody. Your holiday weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Farrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
I know we are in the business of the FFPC and the Football Guys Playoff Players Championship here, and we dedicate a lot of the show to the championship round. I also understand we have a lot of listeners and a lot of viewers that don't necessarily have a team going in that sweat this weekend, but they might have a championship round in their local league, their office league, their basement league, their friends league, their family league, whatever it is. So I just want to wish a good luck to everybody who has watched the show over the course of the year, listened to the show over the course of the year. Hopefully we helped you get there. Hopefully we offered some advice tonight that will help you bring home those fantasy titles. I hope the ball bounces your way in week 17. It's going to be a very entertaining weekend of fantasy football, and I wish nothing but the best to each one of you. As another aside tonight, as I don't know if anybody knows this, but one of my degrees I have from college was a journalism degree. And I just want to give a shout out to the family of Barbara Walters, who passed away tonight. Rest in peace to one of the great journalists we've had in the 20th century and then continued in the 21st century. Barbara Walters passes away at 93 this evening. Don't want to end it on a sad note, but we will. Rest in peace, Barbara Walters. Good luck in week 17, everybody.